What is going on, boys and girls? Welcome back for another video. This is a quick how-to on how to install the Pro Scale light kit on the Chevy K10. So this is the light kit right here. I'll put the part number down in the description so that you guys can find it. Today, as far as tools, we're going to need a 2mm hex driver, and I believe we'll need a 1.5 mil as well for a couple of things. I don't think you'll need a 2.5, but we're also going to use some marine grease for sealing up the receiver tray cover when we get into that, just to make sure everything stays waterproof. And we'll have our pair of dikes just to cut off any excess zip tie ends. And I think that should be about it. So go ahead and opening up the box. Got the instruction set, pretty standard. Looks like we've got some quick instructions on how to install the distribution block, and then obviously all the goodies inside, headlights left and right. So I'm going to set this stuff aside as I unbox it. All of your LEDs themselves, headlights, taillights, reverse lights, and turn signals. Looks like this comes with, it does come with a little bit of silicone grease, so that's good. I'm not sure if you'll need those for the lights. This is the mount that screws onto the body that you attach the distribution block to. Or this is the distribution block here that goes on the body itself. This is the module that goes onto the chassis. And I believe this is the mount that goes onto the chassis as well. I think maybe these are both chassis mounts. We'll learn that as we go. So I'll go ahead and set this aside, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Alright guys, so reading the instructions, this is the tray we're going to want to use for the power distribution module. So 3 different length screws, they are important. So this guy is going to sit right in here, just like so. Just as a tangent, you guys will notice I removed the battery tray latch here because I tend to run taller batteries and I just throw a Velcro strap in there. You could run multiples if you want, but I just run the one and it works fine. Alright, so this first countersunk one is a 1.5. Okay. And then the next one, we're actually going to take our module and we're going to place it where it goes, which is right here. And the next thing to note is that the longer screw goes right on this side and the shorter screw goes on this side. So we're going to use our 18mm screw on this side over here, and of course it is a 2mm. And then the 12mm goes on this side right here. Alright, let's snug this guy right down. Don't need to reef these too tight, they're just going into plastic. Just snug enough to where they're not going to back out. The next step we're going to do is we're going to loosen these two guys here on the battery tray. Those should be 2mm. And the reason we need to do this is because we are going to route our max link cable underneath the battery tray over to the receiver box. As I'm doing this, I can explain to you guys, you can use the max link cable if you're going to use the Bluetooth module in the radio, which I am, or you can use the receiver cable. So they do say in the instructions you can use the receiver cable or the max link cable. You can't use both. Okay, I'm going to locate the link cable and then I'll get you guys back on. Okay, so just to show you guys the difference, this here is the receiver cable. You can see it's a little more complicated. It's got male and female. One's going to go into the receiver. The other one would tap into your ESC. One goes into channel 1 of your receiver box, and then this end, of course, goes into the distribution module. However, I'm electing to use the max link cable. It's just one single cable here. Plugs into the in port of the distribution block, runs underneath your battery tray, and into your receiver box. So all I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to plug this guy into the in port, run it underneath the battery tray, screw that back down, and then we'll start taking off the screws from our receiver box. Alright, I wanted to put you guys back on here for just a second to show you something while I've got the battery tray up. I decided to zip tie the max link cable directly to the top of the transmission housing, route it between the two micro servos, and then along the receiver box here. So that'll kind of keep it nice and tidy. They've already elected to anchor the wires to the other servos here, so it looks like a good mounting point. So we just want to make sure that you're careful not to crush any wiring. Make sure nothing is pinching. Everything's nice and flat when it goes back down. And then screw down your battery tray, and then we'll get into the receiver box next. Okay, now that the battery tray is secured back down, we're going to get into the receiver box. These are all 2mm Allens. I did just want to elaborate on, you're going to see some guys, in my opinion, take the lazy route here and remove this rubber plug and go right into the receiver box through here and leave the wire hanging out here and shove this rubber plug back in here. In my opinion, that's half-assing it. You're not going to necessarily be waterproof there. If you're going to take this thing underwater, you're going to be running it through creeks, whatever else. It's just worth running it the right way, which is going to be underneath here, because here you're going to have grease in here on top of foam that covers your wires going through into the receiver box, and that gives you a nice secure water barrier. So if you run things through there, and I'll do it on camera so you can see, it is a little more cumbersome to run them through here just because it's a tight space you got to get through. But in the long run, it's the right way to do things. It'll keep things waterproof. Just spend the extra time, do it right. You are going to see a blue seal that goes around the perimeter of the receiver box here. Make sure you don't damage that. I usually like to run a thin film of silicone around that just to keep it nice and lubricated when you put it back together. Give you a good water seal. Keep your water out of there. Keep it from ruining your receiver. Take this off the top carefully. This will come off in a separate piece. I'm going to put this off to the side. And I'm going to take this guy off. Flip him upside down so you guys can see a little bit of that grease in there. And we'll put some more of that grease in there just to keep a good barrier. So, next thing we're going to do, here's the blue seal I was talking about. So what we're going to do, our mission here, we have to route this max cable over this foam along where these other wires are, underneath here, and yes, this is the cumbersome part. You got to get it up through here, and then you're going to plug into this link port right here, if you're using the max cable, of course, which we are. So we're going to go underneath here, and yeah, and like I said, if you just use another driver to kind of push this along, coax it along, get it through there, in the end you can have peace of mind that it's going to be nice and waterproof. So it's got a blank on the one end. It should plug in like so. And this is my first time having to go with this with the Bluetooth module, so yep. Okay, that plugs in nice and securely there. And I like this approach because you can use this one cable instead of using multiple cables. Now, what we have to do is try to run all of these guys neatly side by side so they're not on top of each other. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Have all these wires flat where they need to be. Just going to leave it like so. And I'm also carefully looking to make sure that everything is coiled inside of the receiver box. Going to just start all three of these receiver box screws here. And once they're all started, then we can snug them down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our grease here. And you can use any marine grease. And I'm just going to apply a bead. Take this. Just apply a bead across the top of these wires. That'll kind of dual purpose, help keep them in place as you're putting the cover back on. And it'll also work as a water barrier to keep things out of there. Alright, now we'll go ahead and fit our cover back on here. And again, These are 2mm Allens. Kind of work your way back and forth from side to side so you get a nice even tighten on the cover. So now we have our max cable plugged into the in port here, run underneath our battery tray, between our two servos, up into the receiver box. So on to the next step. Okay, so next, because this kit does have reverse lights, the lighting distribution module has to know when the motor is going in reverse. So this is how it accomplishes that. 2 bullet connectors that you're going to interrupt the motor wiring, and then you're going to plug into your motor sensor port over here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just undo these bullets. There we go. Okay. So now we have the bullet connectors separated. So here's our harness. So this is pretty simple. The red bullet connector is going to plug into red. There we go. Bottom that all the way out. Try not to press too hard because I'm not really sure. I don't have a lot of experience with brushed motors. Mainly deal with brushless. But all you're going to do is just interrupt your harness here. Red. And then repeat. Black. This does feel a little fragile, so probably be extra careful. All right. Now that we have those connected, we're going to run this into the motor sensor port here. Here we go. So now we're going to tidy the rest of this up with zip ties. Alright, so now we tidied everything up over here. Just zip tied our motor sensor connector to our bullets, and that takes care of everything on the chassis. Next we're going to move over to the lighting on the body itself. Alright guys, so it's actually the next day. I finished the installation and I thought about cutting this part out, but I wanted to include it because I want to make sure you guys don't make the same mistake. If you look, I've changed the lighting distribution block mounting bracket here. So this is the correct bracket. I know it's a little bit hard to see since the block is attached, but this is the correct bracket here for the K10. And the reason that I missed it, you know, you get caught up in these videos, time goes by, the kids come down. I know I'm making a lot of excuses here, but basically it's easy to get sidetracked. And if you look here at the instructions, try to fit this in the frame. If you look at the instructions, you're following everything along in the book, and you get down to right around here, it talks about referencing figure 13. There's no mention of any other bracket, and if I go back to the scene where I'm unpacking everything, I do mention that there is another bracket there.
Flashback.
This is the mount that screws onto the body that you attach the distribution block to.
End of flashback.
And if you look at figure 13 here, it only shows the one bracket. This is the bracket for the K5 Blazer. So if I had to guess, I'm guessing that Traxxas originally made this kit for the K5 Blazer, and then somebody went, you know what, we could make some more money with this if we just throw in a second bracket and then another piece of paper, which is clearly an afterthought. Here's the piece of paper that comes out of the box as well that shows you the correct bracket for the K10. It shows you how to mount it on the roll cage. This is what I should have used. I got really caught up in the instructions, thought I had to modify it, and you'll see in the next scene when I go to install the headlights, I actually cut out a part of this to make the K5 bracket work, which isn't the right thing to do. Anyway, don't make that mistake. Make sure you use the K10 lighting block mount. Now on to the headlight installation. This is just a single 1.5 millimeter. So this is considered the right side. Remember, left and right on the vehicle are relative to the driver's seat, as if you were sitting in the vehicle. All right. And then this should separate like so. And taking our, so remember, here's the right side. So this is the side we're going to need. So first we have the backing, and we're going to place it here. Everything is fairly keyed, so it should all go together. The next thing that goes on top of it is one of these little chrome buckets, like so. And then you need to cover everything. So everything is all together. just like that. And then you need to screw that back in. So you don't have to take the grill out like you do with the Bronco, so that's a little bit nicer. Not forcing anything here. Feels like it's going in smooth. Excellent. Alright, so there's one headlight done. The next thing we'll need to do is plug this marker light into the side housing right here. It should clip in just like that. Alright. So there's everything on that side. Now let's repeat the process for the other light. Alright guys, so we got both headlights installed. Passenger side, driver side, marker light, marker light. These are your zip tie points here, 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 and here. So what we should show is the headlights go into G and H, and it is important if you have the rear integrated turn signals to be using this jumper in F that they give you. So that is the front done. Okay, so our red is our tail light harness, and our white is our reverse light harness. So first on the tail light harness, find the shorter, and the tail lights are 5mm LEDs. The reverse lights are 3. So these just plug directly in to the receptacles here. Okay, so we finished up our tail lights and our reverse lights. So remember, the reverse lights are 3mm LEDs. They go in the bottom part of the housing, and the 5mm LEDs that are your tail lights, brake lights, and turn signals, they go in the top. You have your zip tie points, 1, 2, 3, and then over here 4 and 5, and then lastly everything goes into the distribution block there. So your tail lights go into C, and your reverse lights go into A. So we'll go ahead and get this guy screwed back down here. Alright guys, so we're just about all buttoned up here. The last piece of the puzzle that I did show you is you're going to need to take the power lead coming from the power distribution module, and you're going to want to plug it into the JST power connection coming from your speed controller. And the one very last thing I forgot to mention is you will need to plug in your main power distribution block from the truck into the lighting module itself, which goes right like so. Alright guys, we're switched over to my other camera. Hopefully the quality's not too bad. The light's a little low down here. So we have the truck on, of course. We have the Traxxas app up on the phone. What we'll do is we'll go to dashboard. And right now we can see that the parking lights are on the truck. Steer to the right, there's right turn signal. Steer to the left, there's left turn signal. Turn in the opposite direction to cancel. Have those turn signals in the back as well. And then when we go to lights on the app, we can go to always on, which is a preset. You can edit that in the edit preset. We can go to low, which turns on the low beams. And next I'll hit high. I'll do it off camera so you can see the high beam switch. So you click on high, there's high beams, there's low beams. The aux lights are the top light bar, which you can also control. So if we go to always on, it goes back to the parking lights. In your edit menu, you can actually test any one of these. So if I bring this down so you can see, if you hit test on headlights, the headlights come on. Headlights low, headlights high. And you can continue to do this with all of the different menus. Parking lights, we'll try to keep that in the frame. Hit parking lights. There's parking lights on and off. So you can check all of these. We can test reverse lights here. Click and hold that. Reverse lights on and off. And then we can go back to our different presets. So this is preset number 1, which is always on. So you can drive forward. There's your brake lights on off, reverse lights, back up, reverse lights off, forward, brake lights on off. So that's essentially all of that. The turn signals will only indicate if you're stopped. You can activate those. And then you can select different things for your presets. If you want to use your individual toggle switches, for example, for the headlights, headlights low, toggle switch for headlight high. Here's your high beams, back off, or if you want to use your presets, there's headlights high. So everything is controllable from the app there. That's the Traxxas Link app. Shows you your connectivity to the vehicle in the upper right, your connectivity to your radio upper left. And that's basically it. The other thing that I should mention is if you want to use the hard buttons on the distribution module, you can use the mode and the signal buttons. If you don't want to use the app, the mode, you can click it once to turn on high beams, default is low beams, twice to turn on the daytime running lights, and then back again, cycle back through to the default. The signal lights, you can press it once for the hazard lights, press it again for the hazard lights off, do a double tap to turn the turn signals on or off. So that's the Pro Scale light kit install in a very large nutshell. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Later.